Hey, man, I don't understand. Well, I do understand. Let me start by saying this. I do understand. I do understand why, exactly why it must be this way. Because you see, ladies, and I'm going to keep it real with you. I said it 1,000 times. The liberal thought process, the emotional thought process of being in your feelings about things as it pertains to politics, unfortunately, it had to be broken. I just don't like the fact that as American man, y'all got to feel unsafe in your own country, in your own city, and in your own neighborhoods. Honduran ghost charged with kidnapping a 13-year-old girl at knife point in Louisiana. Don't nobody know who the boy is. Don't nobody know who he is. Police don't know who he is. Don't have no information on him. So you got somebody who came to this country. There ain't no record of him. And I'm going to show you the most interesting thing about all of this. As I scroll down, I want you to ask yourself the most important question of this all. If don't nobody know who he is, number one, the police can't identify him. How in the hell does he have a vehicle that he driving around in? How in Sam hell does he have a registered vehicle to drive in? Did he steal the vehicle? Where you get the car from? I mean, there's gotta be a network. And I'm gonna say this to you. You see, this sex trafficking and child trafficking thing has been big all over the world. It's always been big. But you see, when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris decided they was going to open up them borders, they turned us into a nation of child trafficking. As a nation, we are child traffickers. And they traffic children right in front of you on TV. And then they lied to you and told you, yeah, you know, these kids are these unaccompanied minors. They told you they were unaccompanied minors. Unaccompanied, meaning they don't have their parents, means they were being trafficked from all other countries into America. And then they tried to blame it on Donald Trump and say, oh, he's got these kids in cages. And I remember back then saying these children shouldn't be here in the first damn place. So I really need you to understand what you decided to come into agreement with. You, when you came into agreement with it, became a damn child trafficker because of your damn emotions. Now, this is what the government was saying. This is just a year ago. And it's time that America wake up to this, man. It's time that America wake up to it. Your emotions don't matter. Your feelings don't matter. The truth is what matters. But it's time that we wake up to what's really going on. Because if we don't, this is what you got to understand. If you don't wake up to what's really going on, what's happening to those and what happened to those children that were trafficked all the way from South America across the border of the United States, it's starting to happen to your children. Ladies, it's starting to happen to your children.
Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a week ago, the New York Times reported that the Biden administration has downplayed repeated signs that migrant children are being widely exploited. I would go on record today and say it doesn't sound like just the Biden administration based on what I'm hearing in here, but Ms. Rodas, you mentioned something and it triggered a response a while ago. You said these kids are being recruited in their home country. What do you mean by that?
So, and I'd be happy to submit for the record, we have children saying that there are radio advertisements in their hometowns. So in Huehuetenango, for example, in Guatemala, they're actually advertising on the radio, come with us, we'll give you passage to the United States. There's an example of a sponsor who currently is in Austin, Texas at this moment. He attempted to sponsor 4 children, 1 from the Pomona Fairplex Emergency Intake Site and 3 from the Pecos Emergency Intake Site, promising work to these children who were making $2.50 a day on the coffee farm he owns in Guatemala. So he lured them here. Now, fortunately, they were put into long-term care, but they are being lured here. Facebook ads and other things. Children are being lured here and then put to work here.
So it doesn't sound like they're fleeing as much as they're being baited to come here in a lot of ways, from what I'm hearing.
In many ways, they're not fleeing. In many ways, I mean, let's take El Salvador, for example. No one is fleeing from Nayib Bukele. He has a very safe society right now. Yes, maybe in times past, people were fleeing El Salvador from the gangs, but sadly, the gangs have now set up operation here, and we have evidence that there are many of them who are running the networks here who have the children. It's indisputable evidence that Department of Homeland Security has transnational criminal organizations on the TOC watch list, some of who got their fingerprints here in Washington, D.C. and neighboring areas, are sponsoring the children. It's indisputable.
And I'm going to say this. The media portrayed this as if you, and this is why it's very important, man. It's important to understand how damn wicked the U.S. media is. Like, they are literally children of the devil. I mean, they're literally children of Satan. It's important to understand how wicked they are. They had you convinced that these unaccompanied minors needed help because they understand the emotional heartstrings of a nation. Here's what you about to freaking understand if you don't get it together. You about to understand that they have allowed in men who will rape, pillage, and destroy everything that you hold dear, everything that you love. Is going on all over the United States, and as that's happening, it's being covered up. There was a guy who pulled a gun out in school today in Alabama. Was going to do a school shooting in Alabama. Police went, fire department went. It got taken care of. Never hit the news because he isn't illegal. You want to know something else? There are illegals in school with your daughters and your sons that are 21, 22 years old with your 15, 16-year-old child. You understand what I'm saying to you? At some point in time, you got to wake up and realize, hey, bro, I can't save everybody. And I'm going to demand that you take these people the hell up out of here. It ain't my job to save the world. But unfortunately, I submit to you that I think we still have some people who have lessons to learn. We still got some people who got some lessons to learn. We still got people who they're going out on a Friday night, having drinks, hanging out. They don't have kids. They're real liberal in their thoughts and concepts and ideas. And quite frankly, they're just going through their life cycle. Because the older people get, the more conservative they become as they go through their life cycle. Because in the cycle of life, you're not meant to be selfish. So you're not meant to go through life and not have a family, not have a son or a daughter. That sacrifice of parenthood converts you to be more conservative because now you need to protect what you have. Well, if you go through your life and you never make that sacrifice, if you're a woman, you go through your life and you actually never go through that process of giving birth, having something or someone grow inside of you, it's easy for you to maintain being liberal because you made your whole life about you. And that's this contention about the cat women. When not Katy Perry, what's the girl's name? The one that everybody's talking about, that she came out and she endorsed Kamala. I'm a single cat woman. Yeah. You all about your career. You all about you. And the problem is, you can't have people who are only concerned with themselves making decisions for everybody else. because they're making a selfish decision. They're making a decision based on their emotions and what they believe, but they've never had the experiences to counter that belief, the true human experiences to counter that belief. And
You mentioned too debt bondage. What do you mean when you say debt bondage, and who does the money go to?
So the money goes to the trafficker who
so we got child slavery going on. So America is now a nation of child slavery. Yeah,
ultimately brings them
I want to not listen to it, but you need to hear it. So we're going to listen to it.
here. The New York Times actually showed, I think, Hannah Dreier did an amazing expose where she actually showed the debt page of the child, how much the child had to pay for food, how much the child had to pay for rent, all of those.
You know the messed up thing about this? See, this video going to get a yellow tick mark on YouTube. They're going to say, oh, this is not advertiser friendly.
Things.
So the administration is really, we're engaged in creating slavery. We are trafficking slaves to this country.
Absolutely. There is no doubt we have created a pull, and because this criminal element tragically views children as a commodity, they see us as the middleman because we're paying the flight directly to the end user, the trafficker.
I remember,
paying
I was
for
at
that.
Fort Bliss Emergency Intake Center. I mentioned this last week in a hearing, and I was there as they were shipping kids on buses all over the country. And I actually asked the admiral running the place, I said, are we doing background checks? We're sending these kids to Google addresses. And he's like, no, we're just building the bus as we drive it. And so they were just shipping children. American taxpayers, basically, we're trafficking children.
Exactly. And now here's the worst thing about it. Now watch this. Here's the worst thing from a spiritual perspective. This is the worst part of your ignorance. If you don't know and you ain't paying attention. And I don't mean it offensively. I mean like ignorance, not knowing. Here's the worst part of your ignorance. So your nation is alive spiritually. You are alive spiritually. In my Bible right here, it says that if a man be found to take a man into captivity, oh no, if a man be found to take one of his brethren in captivity, or a man that stands by the gate and he sells him into captivity, then that man should die by death. And I'm paraphrasing, but it's very close. So you wonder why you see your nation dying since Barack Obama became president spiritually. Why it's all falling apart. Now, don't get me wrong. George Bush wasn't the best thing. You know, he let people slam stuff into the towers, bada bing, bada boom, brought in the security state. But you wonder why, ever since Barack Hussein, I'm going to say it again, Barack Hussein got in office, your nation did like this. Pew! Because that's when we started really trafficking children. And so when people say the election that we're in right now is a battle of good against evil, you need to see what it really is. When Donald Trump says, I'm going to build a wall, I'm going to ship people back, I'm going to close our border, I really wish he would just say it. And at some point in time, Donald Trump has to say it. There are millions of missing children in this nation that have been trafficked. We, the American people, are funding child trafficking and child sex labor and child slavery. And we need to be held accountable for it. And you need to be aware of the fact that that is what you're supporting when you support the Democratic Party. If he would have said that at the damn debate, right after he talked about the Haitians eating cats, if he'd have said that at the damn debate like he was advised, that's the one thing that pissed me off about him. like he was advised to, he would have destroyed everybody. Because now that you got to fact check that. Remember, they went and fact checked the whole thing about the kittens, and the truth came out about it. Now they got people all over the place coming out. Now this is what they're doing. He would have utterly decimated it. Done deal. Over. Election won. But he didn't. And unfortunately, people go on in darkness.